Today we look at the eddy transport. We had seen what the eddy momentum, eddy mass and eddy thermal diffusivities are, but in turbulent flow, how does one estimate these transport coefficients? We had also observed the fact that due to the relationship between the film thicknesses, the boundary layer thicknesses for momentum, heat and mass, we have the following practical order of determination of the eddy diffusivities. Because these boundary layer thicknesses are related, rather their ratio is related to the properties group, Schmidt to the power minus 1 by 3 or Prandtl to the power minus 1 by 3. As the Schmidt or Prandtl number values are plugged in, it turns out that Schmidt being large, the mass boundary layer thickness or concentration boundary layer thickness is the least of all, of the order of about 8 microns. Prandtl number is somewhat smaller, and therefore, the thermal boundary layer thickness becomes larger than the concentration boundary layer thickness, but smaller than the momentum boundary layer thickness, which is the fattest of these all of the order of about 82 microns. Yet recognize this difficulty that within a maximum of about 82 microns, you may need to determine the velocities, major velocities at least 5 or 6 locations, so that we can get a proper magnitude of the gradient of velocity. Harder it will be to measure temperature in smaller distances, and it will be hardest to measure concentration values at 6 locations within about 8 microns. So, that is the degree of difficulty. Determination of eddy mass diffusivity is hardest, eddy thermal diffusivity is having intermediate difficulty, and eddy momentum diffusivity is the easiest, but not easy in absolute terms anyway. People have made measurements and given us certain correlations. So, today we will look at some of the correlations. Momentum eddy diffusivity is given by the expression which is based on the experiments by Brinkworth and Smith about 1969. You have to recognize the factors within a phenomenon. Today, in a sense, I will try to slightly generalize the approach so that you get a bigger picture. Okay. The idea is, when you try to understand a subject, you have to have a broader picture, the bigger picture, and then you have to understand what are the finer parts and finer parts and their interrelationship. Okay. So, if you think from that perspective and also from these logical relationships like cause and effect, okay, then you will be able to get a picture, bigger picture. So, look at it this way: the molecular transport and the eddy transport, these are the two types of transport mechanisms contributing to the overall transport. Okay. So, when you have a fluid flowing over a solid, in contact with the solid, the fluid is stationary. Far away from the solid, the fluid may be in the free stream condition, whatever may be the inlet conditions, because the effect of solid is not felt far away. Okay. Let us say the flow is turbulent. Even in fully developed turbulent conditions, we will have the laminar or the molecular mechanism predominating near the wall. It does not mean that the eddy transport does not contribute at all. So, there is a chance, as we should understand, there is a chance that there may be occasional, it may not be very regular, it may not be dominant, but occasional arrival of an eddy from the turbulent core right up to the wall. We can't say that it will not happen. Okay. But the idea to understand is that the turbulent mechanisms of eddy transport are operative together with the inescapable molecular moments or molecular contribution. It is the overall effect that you perceive in the measured velocity profile or measured temperature profile or measured concentration profile. Okay. So, you may say, irrespective of the finer picture or view of how momentum is being transferred, matter is being transferred or thermal energy is being transferred, irrespective of our visualization, our understanding of mechanisms, we could always have measured velocities, we could always have measured temperatures, we could always have measured concentration, right. So, the velocity profile, temperature profile and concentration profile, these are measured and measurable entities. Okay. So, in a sense what you are doing is here, there are these causes inside, molecular causes, the eddy causes, which are resulting into a velocity profile. So, it is the effect that we are measuring, and when you measure a velocity profile, temperature profile or concentration profile, it is sum total of all the effects embedded within. Okay. And as we would shortly see, we do not rule out the possibility that even when the molecular contributions dominate, there could be occasional contribution from eddies. That should be actually seen in what we derive from these profiles. So, basically we measure these profiles, velocity, temperature, concentration, then we from the measured profiles we get the gradients. From the gradients we estimate the transport coefficients. So, it will be combination of the momentum diffusivity and the eddy momentum diffusivity, that sum total will get from the gradient. Same way for thermal diffusivity and eddy thermal diffusivity, and likewise molecular or mass diffusivity and eddy mass diffusivity. So, those are the overall coefficients, that lumped coefficients that we are getting from our measurements on effects of all the mechanisms operating simultaneously. Is that clear? So, this Brinkworth-Smith experiment reported in 1969 gave for Reynolds number of about 50,000 to about 350,000 under turbulent flow conditions in circular pipes in the turbulent core, that is closer to the axis, where the turbulent contributions will predominate, eddy transport will predominate. It is in that region that the momentum eddy diffusivity is given by this expression. Okay. Let us note two things in passing. One, if we look at the right hand side of this correlation, we find that there is a dimensionless ratio Z by D. Z is the distance measured from the axis, center line, and D is the pipe diameter. Okay. See, I am keeping on one hand a result from experiments, carefully conducted experiments. On the other hand, I am trying to generate at the same time an insight into the structure of correlations using an approach of dimensional analysis. Okay. I am inching towards developing an insight into dimensional analysis of experimental measurements. So, if D is the pipe diameter and you look at the second and third term on the right hand side, you see that there is this D by 2. If I take the 2 in denominator, I have D by 2 which is radius, and I have Z which is the distance measured from the center line or axis. Yes, in a sense aspect ratio, but look at what we have. This is a dimensionless quantity, Z divided by the radius D by 2. Z is the distance measured from the center line. Okay. I also mentioned here without description Z plus, and I am saying Z plus greater than 30, and I am talking about the turbulent core which is closer to the axis. clearly we are talking of core which is closer to the axis, but we are talking of Z plus greater than 30. It clearly implies that Z plus must be in the opposite sense, right. If it were in the same sense as the radial direction, we should have talked of some quantity less than certain number. So, clearly the suspense here is Z plus is in the reverse sense of the radial direction. I am also writing Z plus greater than 30. I do not have any units here, which means Z plus must be dimensionless. So, Z plus is certain dimensionless quantity related to the distance, but now measured from the wall rather than from the axis. Okay. So much about the turbulent core and Z plus. So, let us quickly go to the next slide and see what Z plus is. Z plus is defined as this: d by 2 minus z, radius minus z. Z is the distance measured from axis, which means radius minus distance measured from the axis is the distance measured from the wall, right. So, when we talk of z equal to d by 2, z plus is 0, that is at the wall, and when z plus exceeds 30, we have the turbulent core, which means now measured from the wall, the dimensionless distance measured from the wall as indicated by z plus has to be greater than 30 to approach the turbulent core. Take a little more time to understand the structure of this. If you look at z plus here, what does it remind you of? I already made the point that z plus is dimensionless. Now, I am asking you to look at the structure of the right hand side. Does it remind you of anything familiar to you? This one. I hope the terms are clear, notation is clear. D is diameter, Z is distance measured from axis, U bar is velocity, right. Nu is kinematic viscosity. Then we have the friction factor term also. If you look at the structure of this, exactly. So, the structure of this is similar to Reynolds number. This is a length scale is distance measured from the wall, d u bar by nu, and then we have some weighting function f by 2 to the power 0.5, where f is fanning friction factor. Okay. So, now I go back to the correlation. Z plus greater than 30 is turbulent core, and then I have on the left hand side now EV divided by d by 2 u bar f by 2 to the power 0.5. Once again the same question I ask again for the left hand side. Does it remind you of anything again familiar? Left hand side. I want more than that. So, closest structure for this dimensionless group again is of Reynolds number in reciprocal sense, provided you are able to admit that EV, which may conceal nu, but in addition take the eddy transport 2 fanning friction factor, it is here, it is explicit. Friction factor is again the effect overall, it is a measurable quantity, it will again contain overall effect, right. You see, you have that universal plot of F versus RE, right. So, that contains everything across all regions. So, EV, which has the same dimensions as nu, because if you remember the overall momentum transport coefficient had nu plus EV, we had arranged it in that form, nu plus EV. So, EV has same dimensions as viscosity. So, this again has the structure of Reynolds number, but we are now reciprocal. D by 2 is the length scale velocity divided by equivalent of nu in terms of EV, and then we have f by 2 to the power 0.5 weighting it. So, both the sides are dimensionless as required, and this is one of the strategies when you develop correlations of external data for two reasons. One, to express large body of data in as compact a fashion as possible, and second, to generalize the implications of your data to as much range as possible. For this reason, we go for dimensional analysis or dimensionless correlations. Not all correlations are dimensionless, you have seen that. Example was the diffusivity in gases, right. Okay. So, this is like the reciprocal of Reynolds number weighted by the fanning friction factor, but with the EV that is our focus, and right hand side is also dimensionless. There is one more thing we can note in passing. The right hand side has Z by d by 2 as the dimensionless space coordinate and it has even powers 0, 2 and 4. Okay. When you observe correlations like this, you start getting a lot of insights. Rather than just flash a correlation, ask you to memorize, I am trying to spend time to explain the structure as much as we can. Suppose we had no means of understanding from first principles what we are studying, then at least we should be making an effort to understand what we have got and represented as empirical correlations. Okay. So, for turbulent core Z plus greater than 30, we have this correlation. All the notations are clear. We could ask one question here. If this is giving us an idea about the eddy momentum transport, let us try to ask a question and answer it. Where will I expect EV to be least? Physically, don't worry about the correlation. If you just take your basic understanding of eddy momentum transport, where do you expect eddy to be minimum? At the wall, where the viscous contribution dominates, correct? That would correspond to, in our notation, Z plus equal to 0, right? We could ask another question, where will we expect EV to be maximum? I am trying to do more than just teach you the basics of mass transfer. I am trying to convey to you tools of thinking and understanding. I want to shape your thinking. So, let me name something which I have coined myself. I call it principle of extremes. Sometimes it helps to think of what are the extreme situations. I have talked of where EV will be minimum. You have agreed that it should be minimum at Z plus equal to 0 or at the wall. So, I ask the complementary question, where will I expect EV to be maximum? Think of the extreme. Z plus equal to 0 is at the wall. The maximum in eddy momentum transport we expect will be at the axis. Will it be? We should not be afraid of making mistakes. That is another guideline. It might appear that possibly EV might be maximum in the turbulent core somewhere in the middle, but since we have an expression for EV as a function of Z, we should be able to find out what is the location of maximum. If this is true, across the entire span of the inside of circular pipe, from center line to the wall, we should be able to find out where EV will be maximum. Can you try to find that? How would you do it? Speak, differentiate. If EV is maximum, the derivative must be equal to 0. Now work it out quickly. Tell me, where will it happen? It shouldn't take more than 30 seconds, if not immediately. Where is EV maximum? At what? That's what I tried to tell you. It might be tempting to think of the center. Work it out. Can you work it out? Differentiate this with respect to Z, set it equal to 0, d by 2, right, d by 4, half the radius, right. Differentiate the right hand side with Z, equate it to 0, and what you get is d by 4 or half the radius. So, the maximum of EV does not occur at the center line as the first thought may be. So, that suggests that you have to use the principle of maximum extremes carefully. It can be providing certain insight, but do not rely on insight as much on the mathematical rigor. No, the way we are defined, it will always. Okay. So, now we have the location of maximum of EV. It should be then possible for given set of conditions, a given pipe, given fluid, temperature, pressure, velocity, to find out what is the maximum value of EV. So, we will take one numerical example here. For water at 25 degrees centigrade in a 2-inch pipe, 5 centimeter diameter, Reynolds number about 150,000, The average velocity is 2.69 meter per second, fanning friction factor is 0.004. If you plug this all in, EV max comes out to be 2.1 into 10 raised to minus 4 meter square per second. That is the value of E max, and to put it in perspective, we may say that we will compare it with the kinematic viscosity nu. When you do that, this EV max comes out to be about 238 times, 2 orders of magnitude greater than the momentum diffusivity or kinematic viscosity. This will be representative of turbulent conditions. So, we have some notion now of what is the magnitude of the maximum eddy transport coefficient compared to the momentum diffusivity, more than 2 orders of magnitude. No wonder we take recourse to turbulence when we want rapid mixing, or to reinforce an earlier point, where we introduce convection, it by far dominates the molecular transport, here in context of momentum transfer. You get this? Okay. Let us think of the other region. Z plus greater than 30 is the turbulent core. Let us think of region close to the wall, and that is Z plus less than 5. For region close to the wall, the correlation for AD momentum diffusivity is this: EV by nu equal to Z plus by K to the power 3. I defined Z, and K is in the range of 8.9 to 14.5. This is not firmly established, but we have some kind of range for K. Let us make the same set of observations. Right hand side is again dimensionless, K is dimensionless constant. Left hand side, EV by nu is obviously dimensionless, because EV and nu have the same dimensions. And the third one, we have now the space dependence cubic. Why are we looking at? Z plus 0 is at the wall, where the momentum molecular transport dominates. So, the AD contribution is minimal there, which is not to say that no AD will be ever be able to reach there. That is not that. At the axis, we have another issue. At the axis, we have symmetry. At the axis, we have symmetry. EV is not 0 there, not minimum also. Minimum is 0, and that is at the wall. In turbulent core, if you restrict to only turbulent core, then that part will have minimum to be at the center line because of the symmetry, because the turbulent effects get kind of symmetrically minimized. You note here the power is 3. In the turbulent core, you had 0, 2 and 4. 0, 2 and 4. Here it is cubic. This equation indicates AD motion persists right up to the wall, and it was actually deduced separately by Murphy much earlier in 1932. Then comes the transition. Region closer to the wall, region closer to the axis excluded, we are left with the transition region, which is Z plus ranging from 5 to 30. 5 less than Z plus less than 30. There the EV by nu is Z plus by 11 square. All are empirical correlations for AD transport coefficient in 3 regions: closer to the wall, closer to the axis, and intermediate. Now, looking at this equation, we can ask another question: where will AD momentum diffusivity be comparable to the momentum diffusivity? It is at Z plus equal to 11, right? And if you calculate for water at 25 degrees centigrade and Reynolds number of 150,000, 2-inch pipe, this location measured from the wall works out to be 82 microns, the number I mentioned earlier. The AD momentum diffusivity becomes small enough to be comparable to the momentum diffusivity at this distance, 82 microns. Above 82 microns, in the turbulent core, the AD transport coefficient will be much higher, maximum being 238 times as per our number so far. This is what I had mentioned earlier. This is a short distance. Within 82 microns, you will have to determine velocity profile at several locations. That's a small distance. You can't think of Peter tube. Peter tube will only give you time average velocity. It will average out all turbulent, chaotic, randomly varying quantities and give you the mean velocity, time average. So, you will require much more sensitive probes and modern techniques like laser Doppler anemometer or particle imaging velocimetry. PIV is currently at our department for a huge cost of in excess of 2 crores. We could manage this instrument through one of the special grants of DST as a whole, department as a whole. Okay. So, it is possible to make these measurements. In case of concentration and temperature, things are harder. Now, let us think of the heat and mass eddy diffusivity. For most gases, the Prandtl and Schmidt are close to unity, and we could say that eddy diffusivity for heat, mass and momentum might be equal for all regions of turbulence. In realistic systems, Prandtl and Schmidt will be greater than 1. Then we can speak of the ratio of EH to EV and ED to EV, and these ratios will vary with location relative to the wall or distance measured from the wall. In the turbulent core, the ratio of EH to EV and ED to EV is about 1.2 to 1.3, with ED approximately equal to EH. ED mass diffusivity approximately equal to AD thermal diffusivity. So, we have now here another correlation by Notter and Schleicher 1971. ED by nu is equal to EH by nu, and that is given by this 0.309 z plus cube upon 1 plus 0.0067 z plus square to the power 0.5. If you plug within this z plus equal to 0, then we find that ED by nu is equal to EH by nu equal to z plus divided by this 10.36 to the power 3. Diffusion sublayer is the region close to the wall where molecular mass diffusivity prevails. It by far exceeds the AD mass diffusivity. Diffusion sublayer. We could therefore calculate from here for water at 25 degrees centigrade with this viscosity 8.964 10 to the power minus 7 meter square per second, and the molecular mass diffusivity being 10 raised to minus 9 meter square per second, 10 raised to minus 5 centimeter square per second. It works out to be ED equal to D and Z plus is 1.08. If you substitute ED equal to D, plug in nu and estimate Z plus comes out to be 1.08. This is much lesser than 11, where we had seen that EV becomes equal to nu. That is what I was referring to. When you talk of, let us say, capital delta as boundary layer thickness, then delta subscript capital D is the diffusion sublayer thickness or diffusion boundary layer thickness. That divided by delta for momentum will be proportional to Schmidt to the power minus 1 by 3, and the delta H by delta will be proportional to Prandtl to the power minus 1 by 3, Prandtl to the power minus 1 by 3. If Schmidt and Prandtl numbers are large, then obviously delta D and delta H become small. That is what we are seeing. Delta is about 82 microns, where ED becomes equal to D, where the eddy mass transport becomes comparable to the molecular mass transport. Z plus is 1.08, and this is much less than 11. 11 is the location where we had EV equal to nu. So, we are comparing the location where eddy momentum diffusivity becomes comparable to the momentum diffusivity, eddy transport to the molecular transport for momentum, where they become comparable. Z plus is 11. Similarly, likewise, in analogous fashion, ED, which is the eddy transport for mass, becomes comparable to D, which is molecular mass diffusivity, where the eddy mass diffusivity becomes equal to or comparable to molecular mass diffusivity. That location is much smaller than this 11, it is 1.08, less than a tenth. No, this is for the actual fluids, this is for water. We are looking at water. This is general. This is a general correlation. It is a general correlation which gives you how ED and EH will depend on Z plus. There are two parts here. For gases, Prandtl and Schmidt are comparable. There we expect the maximum correspondence between the three transport phenomena: momentum, heat and mass. There we may expect in the broadest sense that EV is equal to EH equal to ED. In reality, in most fluids, when the Prandtl-Schmidt number are not comparable to 1, this ideal expectation is not true. But it turns out that there is a saving grace, which is the AD transport for a mass and heat, they still remain analogous. It is in that condition that we have ED equal to AH. Okay. Got it now? So, you see this 1.08 much less than 11 indicates that the diffusion sublayer is much thinner than the momentum sublayer. That corresponds to about 8 microns as opposed to 82 microns. So, diffusion sublayer is of the order of 8 microns, the momentum layer is about 82 microns. That is the reason why it is so much harder to obtain the proper dependable concentration profile from measurements, and therefore, the AD diffusivity for mass ED. In general, the ratios would vary depending on how this overall coefficient is varying, D plus ED. We know that ED will be dominant in turbulent core, D will dominate near the wall. If you go from the wall up to the turbulent core, this will vary, and therefore, the ratio of ED to EV and EH to EV will also vary. If we know one, the other may be inferred. Clear? So much for the complexity of the turbulent transport and the correlations for the AD diffusivities for momentum, mass and heat. All this was to give you an idea about where the experiments stand today, and to admit that we do not have the theoretical tools or the basic physics to describe all the events which occur in real fluids with which we have to deal. And since we do not have that kind of understanding or insight to be able to describe everything precisely from first principles, we next need to consider other ways of going about explaining our accidental data. That brings us to what we call theories of mass transfer, and which I cautioned you against in last few lectures, that this is sort of overstating. Although it is a convention, people have been calling these mathematical descriptions as film theory, penetration theory, surface renewal theory, etc. Please note that these are overstatements. We are overrating the mathematical formulations. At best, we should be calling them models. They are mathematical models, they are not theories, but we will continue to call it to keep in tune with the jargon chemical engineers use. So, the models of mass transfer that we are going to consider are outlined here. This is just to give you a bigger picture, and it is here that I want to bring about that pedagogical element of giving you a picture in terms of interrelationships and also saving or economizing on our effort. In the process, getting more insight into the theory. So, the three models are film theory, penetration theory and surface renewal theory. In addition, there are more models. We have combination of film and surface renewal model, surface stretch theory and Graves-Nussel theory. Of these, you would not find Graves-Nussel theory in treble. Now, let me tell you that this slide may appear as if we are dealing with entirely new things. And let me tell you that of these six models, you already have knowledge of film theory and penetration theory, but probably you don't know what exactly it is. So far, whatever we had done, we have implicitly, without stating, analyzed film theory and penetration theory. Okay, so let me explain that. The film theory has theory which is exactly same as what you have done in the tutorial problem 1, the diffusion through a solid non-porous polymeric membrane. That analysis actually is identical with the film theory. As far as penetration theory is concerned, I have to do a little magic to connect it to the analysis of mass transfer into a falling film. In the analysis of the diffusion through a polymeric membrane, we had steady state. That was the key assumption. Okay. Film theory is a steady state picture. Okay. Mass transfer into a falling liquid film was also at steady state. But penetration theory is essentially an improvement upon film theory to overcome its steady state limitation of assumption of steady state. So, the question naturally will arise in your mind, how could one steady state picture be used for an unsteady state description? So, just note here, this is essentially unsteady state, and I am saying at the same time that this is identical to the analysis of mass transfer into a falling film, which again had a key assumption steady state. So, naturally the question is, how come you think of on one hand of steady state analysis, and then here you say that it is unsteady state picture. That little magic is introduced by the choice of a reference frame. Now, I will be often talking about these particular two words, and that pair of words is thought experiments. I want you to visualize through your thought what might be happening. Now, let me explain this. You remember the picture corresponding to mass transfer into falling film? We had a vertical wall, then an adjacent film, the film is flowing down, flow is fully developed. In the test section, the thickness of the film is constant delta, and we have nothing varying with time. Concentration does not vary anywhere with time, velocity does not vary anywhere with time. And then we analyzed that and found that series solution Johnson Pickford had given. Then we had those two special cases. Now come to the special case corresponding to quick flow, large flow rate, which means a fluid element moves from top of the test section to the bottom of test section very quickly, spending very little time with the gas which is being absorbed. It is in that case we said, because time is short, square root of dA times T or dA times theta, which is the depth of penetration, is short, we could say the diffusion is limited to a very thin region close to the free surface. Now imagine that you have a element of this fluid close to the surface which is moving quickly from top to bottom, and instead of taking a coordinate frame, reference frame outside the film looking at the whole thing, we instead choose to attach our reference frame to this one particular element which is moving from top to bottom. You get this? For a moment, presume that you are a Maxwell's demon. That means in thought you can sit inside this little element at the surface and see what is happening around. You start at the top, end up at the bottom. In the process, you are seeing A coming into the liquid in this element around you. You will see that the concentration level at the top is CA0, when you start at the top. At the bottom, when you are about to exit the concentration, average concentration has been reached, you would see this concentration profile building up as you are descending from top to bottom. Now, with what velocity will you descend? The maximum velocity, which is surface velocity. So, the actual steady state picture can be converted into unsteady state picture by use of this velocity of the reference frame. Now, I will depict it mathematically. The convective diffusion equation that you had on left hand side ui dou Ca by dou y. On the right hand side we have dAb dou 2 Ca by dou z square. Now, replace ui by the maximum velocity, ui max, it is a constant. Take it in the denominator, y divided by ui max, that has dimensions of time, and it is actually the time you have spent when you have moved from the top to any location y. So, the actual steady state picture in y z coordinates can be converted into an unsteady state description in terms of z and theta, where theta is y by ui max. So, entire analysis of mass transfer into falling film under short time of contact or rapid flow special case is identical to this unsteady state picture penetration theory. Y is related to time, and that is the time which is the actual time of action in that element. If that element is moving with a constant velocity, then you no longer look at y's, you look at time. You are seeing also conditions around you varying with time. When you come at the top, maybe Ca0 is 0, there is no A. If the test section is long enough, you might have near saturation concentration close to you. So, you would be seeing the increase in concentration from 0 to certain maximum concentration close to saturation, and that is happening in time, because within that element you have only one coordinate, which is space coordinate, that is the z directed space coordinate from z equal to 0 at the surface to z equal to delta at the wall, but we never reach there. We are limited to only a small lambda, small compared to delta. So, essence is the unsteady state analysis for the penetration model can be figured out from the steady state analysis of mass transfer into falling film. So, all the mathematical work that goes in analyzing the large flow rate case automatically preempts all mathematical work required for penetration theory. Here is the final observation, and that is to highlight the importance of mathematical application. Mathematics allows you to uniquely describe several different scenarios within one framework. If it is an analogous family of problems, once you solve one problem, you have at the same time solved all other problems. We will stop here.